Trustee Klein, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Like in detention or the?
Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Skokie Village Board for Monday, December the 20th, 2021. With Skokie and the entire state of Illinois now in Phase 5 of the Restore Illinois Plan, in the lifting of restrictions on in-person gatherings, the Skokie Village Board meetings are in person in the council chambers at Village Hall, 5127 Oakton. Village Board meetings begin at 8 p.m. and will continue to be broadcast live on the Village's YouTube channel, as well as on Skokie Vision cable television channels 17 Comcast and 25 RCN. Meetings are also rebroadcast on the cable channels in the weeks following each meeting, and the videos are archived on the Village's YouTube channel. As of August 30th, 2021, all individuals in Illinois shall be required to wear masks when indoors, including village buildings. Public comments may still be submitted to publiccomments@skokie.org. Comments received prior to the meeting or during the meeting will be provided to the village board, but will not be read aloud. Public comments can also be mailed or hand-delivered to Skokie Village Hall, attention Village Manager's Office, or placed in the exterior drop box on the west side of Skokie Village Hall. Each village board meeting agenda includes time for public comments, and individuals wishing to speak on an issue will be allocated 3 minutes to address the village board. Let me just point out one thing. In the interest of public safety, the swearing in of fire and police personnel was conducted here in the boardroom at 7 p.m. this evening. It was our thought that the village hall would be overcrowded and could present a COVID danger, and especially with the recent surge. So we congratulate Joseph Johnson, who was promoted to lieutenant in the fire department. We welcome David Knurik and Daniel Sutton to the fire department, and we welcome Willie Ackerson and Boris Vargas to our police department. Hopefully, at some future time, we will all have the personal opportunity to congratulate each one of them. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our village clerk, Pramod Shah, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before asking the clerk to call the roll, I would like to ask for a motion to permit trustee Ralph Klein to participate in this evening's village board meeting remotely. Trustee Klein is under the weather. He tells me he's been tested a couple times, and he's COVID-free, but nevertheless, he doesn't feel well. So I would ask for a motion. Trustee Johnson, seconded by Trustee Pure Slovan. Call the roll on that, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson. Aye. Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein,
I'll abstain.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye. And note, there was one abstention. The meeting is called to order. The next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. Motion is in order. Trustee Sucker, seconded by Trustee Kuhn. Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody would like to have removed? If not, I'll call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson. Aye. Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, and the record will note there were no abstentions. With that vote, I would like to congratulate Marjorie Gorn. Marjorie was going to attend the meeting this evening, but with the recent COVID surge, decided better of it. But we do want to welcome her, and with that vote, you've confirmed her to be a member of the Commission on Family Services. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Pam Gabarini, who will do this evening's 2021 Skokie Award for Artistic Excellence. Pam?
Thank you, Mayor. Do I need to be? Thank you very much. This year's individual award for artistic excellence is being presented to Skokie resident Richard Lichtenstein. The Fine Arts Commission selected Mr. Lichtenstein to receive the award in recognition of his significant contribution to the arts as an educator and jazz musician. When the pandemic struck in March of 2020, Mr. Lichtenstein began offering a series of free weekly jazz concerts called Jazz on Arcadia with Rich. Each week for nearly 2 years, Mr. Lichtenstein conducts research for his thematic hour-long playlist and rehearses daily to ensure a riveting show for his loyal audience from Skokie and around the world. He broadcasts on Facebook Live, sometimes attracting guests from as far away as Australia and Pakistan. As a jazz pianist and retired English teacher, Mr. Lichtenstein has entertained and informed audiences and classrooms for over 30 years. He has lectured on the history of jazz, blues, and show tunes at such prestigious venues as the Newberry Library, Kalamazoo College, Beloit College, the Chicago Academy for the Arts, and the Humanist Society. Mr. Lichtenstein believes strongly in the power of music to transform and inspire both the individual and the community. A Skokie resident for nearly 50 years, Mr. Lichtenstein has made lifelong contributions to Skokie and the greater Chicagoland area as a jazz musician, historian, and educator, and is most deserving of the 2021 Individual Award for Artistic Excellence. I'd like to have Mr. Lichtenstein come up now.
It really is a joy to get this, and it's been a labor of love.
Here, would you like to come over here by the microphone?
Sure.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. This is kind of a deja vu feeling, because back in 2002, got another award, the Illinois, forgot what it was. But in a long story short, it was a different organization, and I had to go down to Springfield to get it. Stutz Terkel at the time was not in a position to give the award, but the Secretary of State was. And I did meet him. So again, this is a deep honor. I've been, Ms. Garbarini, she did an excellent job of hitting the highlights of some of the venues I've had. In a way, I'm kind of like the fly in the wall, you might say, that sees things. I've done a lot of substitute teaching, and I've had opportunity to see a lot of good stuff going on. Sometimes I actually had venues with the schools, as was brought out. And other times I was doing various substitute teaching gigs. But the reason the big stories that it is, I've seen a lot of what goes on in the schools, and I've been very, very impressed. And various venues around town, and mostly in the northern suburbs. And so it's been a labor of love. There is, as Ms. Cameron brought out, there is a lot of, it's almost like a journalist approaching a deadline. There is work to be had, but as I say, I don't want to overdo that labor of love, but that's exactly what it is. I'm kind of somewhat of a perfectionist, you might say, which has good points and sometimes negative, you know. But overall, it's a good thing. So again, just to sum up this short address here, I am really deeply honored. You know, to get the feedback as exemplified in this award. So again, I want to thank you very, very much, and have a good holiday, everybody, coming up. Thank you. Thank you.
Right here, and Amanda's going to join you. Sure. Amanda, going the other side.
Wherever.
This is good.
Okay.
Me too. We're all smiling. You just can't see it. Smile with your eyes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our next award is the Group Award. And this year, I'll come back here. This year's Group Award for Artistic Excellence is being presented to Skokie-based Anatomically Correct, a nonprofit organization founded in 1991 dedicated to showcasing artists in a combined effort to promote diversity, education, and community awareness of the visual and performing arts. Anatomically Correct was founded by Deborah Hatchett, who continues as executive director and also serves as a Fine Arts Commission member. Over the years, Anatomically Correct has organized countless art exhibits in local venues, often performing arts venues, or providing local artists with the opportunity to showcase their work. At present, Anatomically Correct is planning an art show for early next year that will feature all Skokie artists, held in a public venue. During the pandemic, Anatomically Correct launched the Skokie Rocks initiative, encouraging residents to paint rocks with bright, colorful, uplifting designs and to leave them in public areas of the community for other residents to find while walking in their neighborhood. Anatomically Correct also partners with the Skokie North Shore Sculpture Park on the Brush with Nature Plein Air Painting and Sketching Festival, where local artists create paintings and drawings on the sculpture park grounds, and people can walk around and chat with the artists while they do that. Anatomically Correct is most deserving of a 2021 Group Award for Artistic Excellence in recognition of the organization's tireless dedication to promoting the arts in Skokie and the surrounding area, and for supporting local artists in their work. And I'd like to have Deborah Hatchett come up to receive our award.
Anatomically spelled correct. You'd be surprised how
You need
often
to-
that gets
Here's
misspelled.
the
That is not the microphone.
No, I did the same thing.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be receiving this award. Pam pretty much explained a little of what the organization has done. We're currently in our 30th year, surprisingly. 23 of those years, we've been programming arts in Skokie. Started at North Lake Theater, did some shows at the public library here, Skokie Public Library. And as she mentioned, the Brush with Nature program, we started that 12 years ago at Emily Oaks Nature Center. And what that entails is inviting groups of artists, plein air artists as they're called. They set up their easels and they like to paint outdoor scenes, landscapes, but they paint what they see, whatever's in front of them. And part of the Brush with Nature program is to involve the public in meeting these artists. So by partnering with the Emily Oaks Nature Center during their pancake breakfast every summer, everybody would come and eat the pancakes and then work off those calories by walking around the nature center and watching the artists paint. Got to meet a lot of artists that way, which is our goal, to sort of help the artists promote themselves, help them sell their art, and provide opportunities for them to reach out to different communities. Since 1991, these past 30 years, we've presented over 500 exhibitions showcasing the work of 2,500 Illinois artists. We're estimating at about 5 million people throughout the years have seen all the exhibits that we've done. Steppenwolf Theater, we did shows upstairs in their gallery for 7 years and curated whatever the exhibit, whatever they were doing on stage, kind of developed a theme for whatever the exhibit was going to be. Worked with Goodman Theater, worked with Steppenwolf, Athenaeum, the Apollo, and of course, as I mentioned, Northlight Theater. Coming up, we had a little downtime with COVID. So like Pam mentioned, we really started pushing the Skokie Rocks program. And there are many programs like it across the country. I'm not the one who invented it. But it's very simple and it's free. It doesn't cost anything. If you find a little rock, you go home and paint it. The most important thing is you put skokierocks.org on the back of the rock, so when someone finds it, they can go to the website or they can go to the Facebook page and take a picture and post it and say, look what I found. And you would be surprised at how many people have met each other through these postings. Families that sometimes don't even speak the same language, but they found an image that someone painted and looked and said, I found your rock. They can have an option of rehiding it somewhere else, hopefully in a Skokie park. We have the list of the parks on the website. Or they can keep it as their little treasured souvenir. But the goal is to keep it going. Keep painting the rocks, keep hiding, keep finding, keep photographing, and so on and so on and so on. So it's an ongoing, forever, ever community arts program. And again, it doesn't cost anything but a little rock. Like I mentioned, the Brush with Nature program is going to be in its 12th year. We are working with the Skokie North Shore Sculpture Park. Same situation, artists set up and we invite the public to come and watch. Hopefully this year, Emily Oaks will resume their pancake breakfast. It's still tentative because of COVID restrictions, but we're hoping that we're able to do that again. So upcoming, we've been working with Devonshire Cultural Center here in Skokie, starting in 2019, and we did, I believe, 5 or 6 exhibitions there. And then COVID, alas, so we had to postpone, but now it's open again. So coming up in January, we have an exhibit called Home, which will be artists from Skokie, a collection of different artists. And it's a variety of work. It's painting, sculptures, watercolor, photos, all types of work. The second exhibit will come in February, and that is titled Out Loud. It's artwork by Black artists for Black History Month. And the third exhibit is called Courage. And that is artwork celebrating persons of courage, including first responders. So that'll be the month of March. That's 3 months out. We can't really plan too much because things keep changing, but hopefully we'll continue to show at Devonshire and continue to show at Emily Oaks and the Sculpture Park and get those rocks out there and circulating. and continue to keep promoting the arts and artists who live and work in Skokie. So thank you so much. Want my son to?
Sure, sure. And I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge the other members of the Fine Arts Commission who have come out this evening to honor our honorees. So maybe we can have the commission members stand up. Jeff and Pam. Sure, Deborah. Okay. Mayor Van Dusen, thank you so much. And that concludes our part of the.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Richard and Deborah are just an example of the kinds of good works that are done in the village of Skokie every day. And we're grateful to be able to acknowledge both of the work that they did. And especially, we want to congratulate and thank the Fine Arts Commission for its contribution to the village. Thank you very much for everything that all of you do. It's one of the reasons why this really is such a great place to live. So Pam, thank you this evening, and thanks to the Fine Arts Commission. The next item on the agenda is a report of our acting village manager, Nick Wyatt.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees, and good evening. Items A, B, C, and D were approved under tonight's consent agenda, and that would complete my report.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report of our Corporation Counsel, Michael Lorge.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Good evening, everyone. Items A, B, and C were ordinances which were on the consent agenda at the beginning of this evening's meeting and were adopted at that time. Item D is an ordinance which is on my report for first reading tonight and will be back on the agenda for January 3rd, 2022 for second reading and adoption at that time. This ordinance will authorize the issuance of a general obligation, actually two obligation bonds for two purposes. First, an amount not to exceed $160 million is required to fund 90% of the unfunded portion of the fire and police pension liabilities as determined by the village's outside actuary, Nyhart Actuaries. Second, an amount not to exceed $27 million is required to fund TIF-related improvements in conjunction with the previously approved hotel development at 4930 Oakton Street. Both the Series 2022 A bond and the Series B bond will be sold as part of the same debt issuance in early January. In order to meet the funding deadlines toward the TIF project and take advantage of the underwriting expertise and market reach. Although the parameters ordinance establishes separate tax levy requirements for each series, repayment of the 2022 Series A will be made through existing revenue sources, including the current property tax levy. Repayment of the 2022 Series B bonds will be made through tax increment generated by the project itself, as well as a parking lease revenues derived from the private use, that being the hotel portion of the garage. There is a memo that was attached from our finance director, Julian Prendy, and Julian is available this evening with us in case there are any questions.
And this will be back on January the 3rd for adoption.
That's correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Trustee Johnson.
My only question is about the parking garage. I'm curious if we have more information. Do we have a site plan yet? Do we know some specific, do we know the details of the parking garage at this moment?
I'm going to let Len address that specific question.
Thank you.
Hi, Len Becker. Trustee Johnson, yes, we do. We have plans that have been drafted, and we do have those available. They're being finalized right now as far as the cost, gross maximum pricing for the garage. But we will be building 100 public spaces as needed in that area of downtown, as well as 200 required for the hotel. And as Michael Lorge indicated, the 200 spaces for the hotel will be paid by the hotel.
So this will be back.
This will be back then on January 3rd for action by the board. That would complete my report for tonight.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the 2021-2022 CDBG Public Hearing Number 1. Carrie Haberstich. Carrie, welcome.
Thank you. All right. There we go. All right, good evening. Tonight is the beginning of the public hearing process to determine Skokie's use of Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG funds, for the 2022 to 23 program year. A public notice of this and upcoming public hearings was accomplished through an article in the Village's New Skokie newsletter, a legal ad in the Skokie Review, and information on the Village website. The CDBG application availability was announced with 114 email messages to service providers, community agencies, local governments, and institutions. Village departments were also invited to submit requests for funding. Proposals for the coming year were due December 10th and are currently under review. Proposal packet will be transmitted to the board for the next public hearing on Monday, January 3rd. The upcoming year will be the 48th year of Skokie's receipt of CDBG funding from the federal government, during which time the village has benefited from over $24 million in total grants. We will likely estimate our entitlement to be $600,000 for the upcoming year, which is less than the amount we received for the, slightly less than the amount we received for this current program year. Ideally, we would know the exact amount prior to the February budget hearing. This is unlikely, however, so we'll proceed with our estimate and build flexibility into the budget and the action plan as we have done for so many years now. We plan to reprogram some obligated funds from this past year as well. By way of background for everyone, Skokie is an entitlement community with a population of more than 50,000 people and thus receives CDBG funding directly from the federal government. The village is able to develop its own programs and funding priorities, unlike smaller communities that must go through the state or the county for funding of individual projects or activities. Funds must be used for projects or activities that principally benefit low and moderate income persons, address potential or existing blighting conditions, or are in response to a major community emergency, and we've been through that also in the past 21 months. At least 70% of the projects must go toward activities benefiting low and moderate income persons. The intent is that 100% of Skokie's funds go towards activities meeting the low and moderate income benefit tests. All potential community development projects are reviewed to determine their consistency with the objectives of the Community Development Act and the village's 5-year consolidated plan. Projects specifically benefiting identifiable groups of low and moderate income people are given priority. Funding priority is also extended to institutions and community agencies that serve the needs of low and moderate income residents and projects that remove architectural barriers to disabled and elderly residents. Tonight's hearing is also being held to review the progress of our current program year activities. The board has received a report that outlined the status and the progress of these projects. Also included was our annually updated funding matrix showing the history of grants to agencies and organizations. Over the life of the CDBG program, grants have been awarded to 40 different service organizations, totaling over $5.5 million. The village also continues to have an excellent CDBG disbursement ratio, defined by HUD as the unspent balance in our treasury account divided by our most recent entitlement amount. HUD calculates this for Skokie in March of each year and expects entitlement communities to have a ratio of less than 1.5. The village's disbursement ratio in March 2021 was 0.83, which is considered exemplary. Since the report was included in the informational packet, I will highlight the CDBG program through as of this month, and the prevention of preparation for and reaction to COVID-19 has also impacted this year's timeline as it had last year. So we will have public hearings on the first Monday of the first 3 months of next year as well, with the presentations by agencies looking to request funds for the upcoming program year. February 7th will be the proposed budget, and March 7th would be the action plan, and then we would submit that to HUD once we actually learn the funding amount that we will receive. The village's goals and objectives. We focus on capital improvements because that's the concept of the program, but we also have goals and objectives for services and planning and administration. And I put regular here. I will give a little update on our COVID CARES Act funding. Technically, HUD calls this entitlement, but more for regular people like me, it kind of seems more like regular would be the applicable descriptor here. So most of the projects are either pending or underway. A lot of the projects are going through the bid stage right now. So we will see lots of activity in early 2022. Forthcoming projects, the Neighborhood Enhancement Program, which would help a cluster or grouping of homes in Skokie, and the 50/50 sidewalk replacement program. Typically, we see that towards the end of summer of this year or fall, but that's being pushed off to next spring. Can I move this? That's a little better, okay. And then completed projects, our street resurfacing project is complete as far as construction goes, just a little bit of admin left, but that should be done very soon. And then Orchard Village had a kitchen remodel in one of their group homes. In Orchard Village, their timeline was pushed a little bit because they had a leak or overflow in their bathroom above the kitchen. So the timing was kind of good, kind of a little too quick, but so they did actually have to basically kind of gut their kitchen before we got to the point of actually getting the project underway. As in this photo montage, we have the before, or at least the before after demo, and then the after. And then also, the main focus of this project was the stove and the refrigerator were literally right next to each other on this wall. And so now there's both physically and socially distant on opposite sides of the kitchen, and a much more functional kitchen for them. We did have a funding adjustment since the action plan and budget were approved earlier this year. Late summer, early fall, we were notified that we're receiving over $8,800 in additional funds that weren't originally awarded back in spring of this year. So per our flexibility guidelines in the action plan, we added a little over $1,300 to the social worker position. And because of the 15% cap, that's why it's only $1,300 plus. And then we added the rest to the home improvement program. The Regional Assessment of Fair Housing has been a group effort of 19 participating entities, but it's kind of been on hold since COVID. So very little activity, but it's still on our radar screen, and maybe we'll see more activity in 2022. And then just quickly on the CARES Act,
For rent, mortgage, and utility assistance, as we discussed at the meeting 2 weeks ago, we have spent $220,000, which assisted 59 households, and the additional $100,000 awarded at the last meeting should help up to 20 households. It would help up to 6 months in past rent. Our estimated maximum is $10,000, but it will likely be less than that. The average for that first $220,000 was roughly $3,700 per household. Some were a little more, some were a little less. And just maybe as kind of a public service announcement, the Illinois Housing Development Authority, or IDA, does have a rent option. I did touch on it a little bit at the last meeting. It's called the 2021 Illinois Rental Payment Program. You can apply now through Sunday, January 9th, 2022. It can award up to $25,000 per household and up to 18 months of emergency rent payments. Most of that is back payment, but there is a forward payment of 3 or 6 months that could be an option as well. So go to illinoishousinghhelp.org for additional information. And that's a separate program from the villages. Small business assistance, we prepared almost $200,000 in checks and helped over 50 businesses. And then other health and human services programs, projects, and activities will have recommendations in 2022. Are there any questions?
We should be prepared at the next board meeting. January the 3rd will be when the applicants make their brief presentations.
Yes.
Okay.
2 minutes for repeat customers and 3 minutes for any new staff or new organizations.
So everybody should be prepared to get a very thick folder from Carrie with all of the applicants. We usually have about between 20, 23 or so.
Yeah, 20 plus, yeah.
So,
But we also have a village grouping, which is kind of one quick presentation, so it won't be all 20 plus individually, I guess to put it that way.
only 19.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? Oh, sure, Keith?
I just have a statement.
Yes?
Yeah. I just wanted to thank you for your work.
Oh, you're welcome.
Program and being a good, resource for the community.
Good, and it's not just me, there are definitely other people helping as well, just, I'm here trying to head things up, so, thank you.
Well, we refer to Carrie as our annual miracle worker. Usually, the requests far exceed the resources, but somehow, no pressure, Carrie. But for several years now, Carrie and her predecessor, Tom Thompson, have performed miracles in helping as much as possible all of the applicants. So, Carrie, I think we all join with Trustee Robinson in thanking you for everything you have done and everything we know you're going to do.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody in this vast audience who wishes to address the village board? If not, Trustee Sutker.
I move we adjourn. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.